afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the 8th episode of Coffee Table Conversations. Coffee Table Conversations is based on the motto of collaborative approach. We believe that the future is about collaborating, sharing of knowledge, helping each other to achieve individual and societal goals. And these conversations are medium to facilitate it. It's the 68th day of lockdown, and we are still, as a nation, trying to ascertain if we have reached the peak of the pandemic. While we may have diverging views on the actions of the government, my opinion remains that as Indians, we have failed and let down our own people. While I'm an eternal optimist, and we all should be, but the near future looks grim. In this despicable level of politics and mudslinging, the expectation that the government will look out for you is only a farce. In such situation where the companies have started giving pink slips to employees, the state coffers drying up, so you can expect the taxes to go up. We have all realized the importance of having a second income, and the stock market is a very ideal place to be in. However, in such volatility and slowdown, how can we create a strong, safe, and a resilient portfolio is our focus for sure. Today, to guide us is none other than Ms. Anita Toshniwal. She's director of Toshniwal Equity Services Private Limited. She's a chartered accountant with more than 12 years of experience in the stock market and is also an NISM approved trainer for derivatives and an investment advisor. Her areas of specialization includes corporate finance, financial accounting, cost accounting, mutual funds, fundamental analysis, financial planning, etc. She's a visiting faculty for many prestigious institutes like BSc, HR College of Commerce, amongst others. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. We hope to have a very engaging session with you over the next 60 odd minutes.
Thank you, Neil. It's my pleasure. Sorry, we were to do this session 2 weeks back, but I was stuck up with some assignment which I could not. So I didn't want to hurry up this session in terms of not being able to give my full commitment to it. And that is why this got postponed by 2 weeks. So thanks for bearing with me on that matter. And shall we get started?
Yes, ma'am. We can start.
Okay. So friends, we are going through, let me share us. Okay, could you
yeah, ma'am, one second. Just
enable my screen? Yeah, share. So, dear friends, we are going through unprecedented times. Unprecedented times. Yeah. You're able to see my screen?
Yeah. Yes,
okay. So we are going through unprecedented times in terms of not only an economic crisis, but a health crisis, and the very fact of how we are going to work going ahead. Yeah. So there are a lot of talks about people saying, especially in financial services, that a lot of jobs will shift to work from home. Some of us are enjoying working from home because we save on our travel time and the toil it takes on our health. But some of us are finding that there is no clear demarcation between personal and professional life. Yeah, so that is making us look like we are working 24/7 throughout. So I think over a period of time, with more of work from home being organized properly, we should have clear-cut hours which we'll be working, and that should be a little better for most of us. Yeah. Now, let us look at how all of us know that how the GDP growth is getting affected. Obviously, we had 2 months of almost zero economic activity. Yeah, and 2 days back, we had the GDP growth rate figures for the year 2019-2020, which came at around 4.2%, which some of the credit rating agencies, some of the World Bank, IMF are predicting to fall to 0% for this year, or negative also. Could also mean that for companies to survive, they would have to cut down on costs drastically. Yeah. Cost could be in terms of rental, the space they're occupying. Cost could be in terms of human, the employees. Yeah. So we are also going to have unprecedented job cuts this year. Because for any company to survive through the tough period, it needs to continuously generate cash. Remember, cash is king. Yeah, so they need to continuously generate cash, and to generate cash, they have to cut down on cost. Remember, it will take time for the demand also to pick up. So what the government currently has done is it has provided a lot of stimulus on the supply side. It is trying to support the SME sector. Yeah, but what about the demand? What about a person who has lost his job, might get job after 2 months, 3 months? How is he going to create demand for goods and services? What about the lakhs of migrant people who are shifting from the state they are working to their hometown? Where will they get the job opportunity? Where will they derive the income from? So a lot of unanswered questions about economy. The reason I discussed this with you was
ठीक है,
this
आवाज येतोय
leads
तुला थोडा? मी बाहेर येतोय.
this leads us to a very important question of how do we, with whatever savings we are having, we are going to generate over the next few years, how are we going to invest that in a way that we improve, we add it as a second source of income. So apart from our primary source, which would be from the work, the business, the job we are doing, apart from that, how do we generate a second source of income which can help us during tough times? As you would have been seeing, the FD rate, interest rates are falling continuously. At one point of time, in my PPF account, I used to get 12% interest per annum, which has now come down to 7.1. Yeah. So when we put our money at 12%, it was, you know, the feeling was India will always remain a high interest rate economy. 10 se niche interest rate jayega hi nahi. That was a feeling all of us had. Yeah. So we always thought 12, 11, 10, very good. Nobody thought 7.1. And going ahead next quarter, I see further rates coming, further cut in the rates coming. Already the RBI has cut the interest rates by 2%. Yeah, in the short period we've gone through this crisis. So interest rates are falling. So many of us who put a part of our income into FD, we would find that our incomes are continuously falling. Yeah, somehow it doesn't seem very good. For example, SBI is offering a 5.1% interest rate on a 1-year FD, up to 3-year FD. Yeah, and considering our inflation, which is also around 5%, 5 to 6%. Yeah. Remember, if I earn 5% on 100 rupees, that means I'm making an earning of 5 rupees. On that, I have to pay tax. Even if I'm in the 20% tax bracket, that means I will pay 20% of 5 rupees. That means 1 rupee will be gone. Yeah. That leaves me with 4 rupees as income, interest income. Yeah. And my inflation rate is at least 5% in India. That means by putting money into FD, I'm reducing my wealth by 1 rupee for every 100 rupees I'm putting in FD. Forget growing your money, you're actually destroying your wealth by putting your money into FD. Yeah. So that leaves us with what options to invest our money. Definitely equity markets is something we should be looking at. A lot of time, what I've seen is people who've experienced losses in equity markets go ahead and say that it's gambling. Yeah, and we've lost so much of money. It is pure gamble. So we should keep our money safe and not put money into equity markets. I strongly disagree with this particular notion about equity markets. Investing into equity markets is both a science as well as an art. Yeah, and it takes years for you to develop that mastery over investing into equity markets, but it is not gambling. It is definitely not gambling. It is gambling when you play like a roulette, when you invest like a roulette. Now, when you play a roulette, what happens is you randomly point, okay, number 5 is my lucky number, so I'm going to put my finger there. Yeah, and the ball rotates, and if it doesn't stop at 5, you lose money. If you go ahead and invest just like that, which is you go ahead based on some tip, somebody has given you a tip, okay, now this company is going to do so well. You go ahead, invest your money, the company does not do well, you lose money and you call it gambling. When you invest like that, it is definitely gambling, but the stock market is not gambling. It is you who are gambling away your money. Yeah. So this brings us to a very important concept of how do we do how do we analyze stocks? So when we're talking about analyzing stock, we're talking about fundamental analysis. Now, what do we do actually in fundamental analysis? Fundamental analysis is a combination of a study of qualitative and quantitative factors. Okay, now what are the qualitative factors we study? The right approach to fundamental analysis is, first we should study the economy. Yeah, and we should try to ascertain whether the economy is doing good. Once we have done an analysis of economy, then we analyze the industry, different industries within the economy, which are the ones that will grow. And once we've shortlisted the industries, then we go ahead and study which are the companies that need to be analyzed, that need to be invested into. That is the right approach, analyzing economy, industry, and company. Most of us as retail investors, what we tend to do is we analyze companies, yeah, based, sometimes we just don't even analyze companies, we just go ahead and invest based on tips. Sometimes we do analyze companies where we don't even look at industries. Yeah. So how do we analyze this? So a lot of qualitative factors are come into play when we are analyzing economy, industry, company. A lot of quantitative factors come in when we start analyzing the annual report. Yeah. When we start analyzing the annual report, there are a couple of statements which are extremely important for us. One is balance sheet, second is income statement, and third is cash flow statement. Though I am making cash flow statement, I'm mentioning it as a third, but I would like to put it at the highest level. Why? Because cash is king. I might show huge profits in my book, but if those profits are not translating into cash, yeah, then I need to worry about it. So these are three big financial statements, number statements that we need to look into in annual report while doing fundamental analysis. Now, what are the non-financial data you should look at? In the annual report, there are three statements that you need to look at. One is the chairman's speech. What the chairman's speech gives you is a bird's eye view. So generally the chairman speaks about the world economy, then he talks about the Indian economy, then he talks about the industry in which the company is operating, and then he talks about how the company has done and what is his view going ahead. So it gives you a very bird's eye view of the entire thing. So that is one statement you should look at. The second statement you should look at is management discussion and analysis. Yeah. Now, honest management, good managements, companies with clean corporate governance, high standards of ethics will always tend to give everything there. So what we generally tend to do is do something which is known as SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Yeah. Now, let me give you an example. Let us take annual report of Hero MotoCorp. Yeah, Hero MotoCorp is not only the biggest two-wheeler manufacturer in India. It is, for the last 18 years, it is the biggest two-wheeler manufacturer in the world. Yeah. Now, if you look at the annual report of the company very specifically will give you what are the threats it's facing, what are the opportunities it has, and so on and so forth. So when you do this, when you read through the management discussion and analysis, you will get a very good idea about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Any annual report which is not able to give you all these is non-transparent. Okay, so that immediately should be your first area of concern. Why is the management not disclosing everything to me? Yeah, as a shareholder, you are entitled, you're part owner of the company, and you're entitled to all the possible details that are relevant for decision making. And the third thing you should look at is into auditors, auditors notes, the notes to accounts, where if he's trying to specify whether he's trying to raise any red flags and saying that these are matters of concern, or these are probable liabilities which the company has decided not to go ahead and provide for, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that are very relevant for fundamental analysis. Yeah. Should I take questions now, or one sec, let me. Okay, yeah. So, do you think, Neil, I should take questions, or should I just elaborate a little bit more on what I've said?
Ma'am, I think we can elaborate a little bit more on the how to read the annual report and the balance sheet, because that's the question which people are asking right now. How to read a balance
Okay.
sheet, cash flow, balance sheet, income statement.
Okay. So, one of the first things when you're reading, when you're analyzing a company, you have to look into whether the company is going to exist 10 years from now. Whether it is into a business which will exist 10 years from now. I'll give you an example. 2016 telecom industry faced a big revolution. That was Reliance Jio came into action, right? So before Jio came into action, there were 10 to 12 players in the telecom industry, and we were paying a huge amount per GB of data, right? Not many of us could afford the kind of data we are affording today. Yeah, Jio came into the play, into the industry, and changed the entire structure of the industry, with the effect that there are just 3 players currently. Yeah, and Bharti took 7 years to acquire 10 crore customers. Jio acquired it in less than a year. Yeah, so that is the kind of dominance that firm came with. Now, when he came with this kind of dominance, was the benefit to Reliance shareholders limited only to the fact that Jio is there? No. Simultaneously, Reliance Retail started coming into action. Yeah, slowly and steadily, he spent almost 6 to 8 years to develop the Reliance retail also. And now during the current lockdown, they've launched Jio Mart, as you would be aware. Yeah, where you can order online. Yeah, and you would have heard that he has alone raised more than $15 billion in Reliance Industries, Facebook, then Silver Lake, and there are other few entities, private equity investors who are investing into Reliance. Yeah. So first thing, please understand now what is happening to Reliance. Oil, the dependence on oil is reducing for Reliance, and it is going into the new age sector, which is telecom, which is retail. It is going to pose a big threat to Amazon in India, right? Flipkart, Amazon in India. So when the first thing when you're looking at the annual report is, you have to see what is the vision of the management in terms of next 10 years. Will the company be able to survive? Will it have enough? Will it be able to spend on technology? Because going ahead, technology is going to be the game changer for every business. So the first question is whether the business will exist 10 years from now. Second question is corporate governance, management, quality of top management. Very important. Now, how do you analyze top management data? Let me give you a very small example. Yes Bank was found by 2 co-brothers, Rana Kapoor and there was one more Kapoor, Ashok Kapoor. Sorry, Rana Kapoor and Ashok Kapoor, and during the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai, Ashok Kapoor died in the blast. Yeah, and then Rana Kapoor became the person running the entire show. And there was a dispute in the family, and he refused to give board seat to the family of Ashok Kapoor, though Ashok Kapoor was also a co-promoter. Yeah. Now, that was one thing that struck us as very odd. Yeah. Somebody who would not be fair to their family, how would that person be fair to the shareholders of Yes Bank? That kept us from investing into Yes Bank, and we looked like real fools. The share price moved from around 40, which was the IPO price, to 400, 10 times the returns. Yeah. Everyone made a lot of money in this bull run in this stock. Yeah. But we look like fools not putting our money into a stock which was the flavor of the season. But our stand got validated when the share price fell from 400 to 29, right? And then with whatever problems, all of us know what Yes Bank is going through, right? So what I'm trying to say is how you analyze the management depends on, please keep on reading as to what kind of mm, what kind of reaction is the management having in different circumstances. Yeah, for example, a very good learning we had during this period was Rajiv Bajaj, right, who's heading Bajaj Auto. He said that there will be no job cuts, and before anybody's salary is cut, my salary will be cut. Yeah. Now it is, remember the pressure through which two-wheeler and four-wheeler industry is going through. And in spite of that, to come out with this kind of statement makes you understand that this is a promoter who's caring for his family, caring for the employees, caring for the fact that we are going through tough times. All of us will contribute a little bit, but together we will sail through the tough times. Yeah. Many small instances here and there which will help you to understand the importance placed by the management on clean corporate governance. I'll give you one more example. Now, Infosys was, all of us know, was founded by Narayan Murthy, Nandan Nilekani, and there were a couple of more co-promoters. Now, currently, Nandan Nilekani is the chairman, and on the board of directors is Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. She is one of the first Indian self-made billionaires. She heads a company called Biocon in pharma industry. Yeah. Now, as per their corporate governance norms, before, if she, since she is on the board of Infosys, if she herself is a billionaire, but if she had to buy Infosys shares, she had to take a previous approval from the board. Fair enough. Most of the board of directors have this kind of rule in place. Now, what happened was she must have entrusted some part of her money to a portfolio management service provider, a PMS provider, and they bought with her money without informing her shares of Infosys. Yeah, and what happened after that, when she came to know about the Infosys, that the Infosys shares had been bought, she disclosed it to the board of directors, and she said, I was not even aware that they were buying using my money shares of Infosys. The Infosys board said, what is rule applies to everyone. So even though you did not know about it, you will have to pay a penalty. And she was imposed a huge penalty, which she paid. And this was put directly to an NGO. This penalty was routed directly to an NGO for the benefit of NGO. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is a lot of such details you understand only by reading about the management over a period of time. Yeah. So the second important thing that you are looking at in fundamental analysis is how good the top management is. Third, of course, you're looking at cash flow statements, you're looking at balance sheets, you're looking at income statements. One important thing you have to look here is the company a market leader? Is it number 1, 2, 3 in the industry? Question number 2, does it have huge debt? Okay, a company with high debt is going to find it very difficult to sail through the tough times the economy is going through. Remember, debt is nothing but what we owe to outsiders. Yeah, if there is no debt, it is okay. I will not pay dividend to the equity shareholders. The equity shareholders might not get a return on their price. But if I owe money to outsiders, to the banks, if I have taken loans, I'll have to pay interest. I'll have to pay back the installments that I need to pay. Yeah, and those companies will struggle. So the second thing the third thing you should look at is low debt companies, market leaders, companies with how are performing. So they give you data like QOQ, quarter-on-quarter results, YOY, year-on-year results. You should have a look at those results, find out how are they progressing. Yeah, you should look at what is their gross profit margin. Look at return on capital employed. I'll give you an example. Hindustan Unilever, it's the number 1 in FMCG. During this entire crash, it is one stock that gave fabulous returns. Yeah, if you look at the return on capital employed of Hindustan Unilever, It is 116%, 116%. Please understand, in your FD, you're getting a 5%. That means your 100 becomes 105. Hindustan Unilever is a company where your 100 rupees becomes, the 100 rupees of capital that they're employing becomes 216 in a year's time. That is huge, amazing. Yeah. So you're going to look at profit margins, you're going to look at return on capital employed, return on equity. You had, Neil, in the introduction spoken about Ashwath Damodaran sir. He's the person to go to for valuation. Yeah. So his book on valuation is, every time he speaks, the entire world is listening to him. Yeah. He did speak about dividend yields, but sorry, I beg to differ there. Yeah, there are some stocks in India that have been giving huge dividend yields. Okay, dividend yields. Let me share with you something here. I'll show you. Just give me a moment.
And for the participants, I'll just give them a brief on Ashwathama Damodaran and what his view is, so they'll get an idea in the meantime. Ashwathama Damodaran is a faculty in New York University and the Stern School of Business. And he yesterday, in an article, he has made a statement basically saying that he believes that lazy. So basically, he's saying that value investing is like a lazy categorization. He's basically saying that a PE, a low PE and a high dividend stocks have given the lowest returns in the last few years. So he is now moving away from the mechanical way of doing valuation, that will be the PE, PV, price to book, price to earning ratios. So that was what I was discussing with ma'am, that what's her view on that. So Ashwathama Damodaran is supposed to be one of the authorities or guru on valuation as such.
Yeah. So if you can see my screen here, can you see screener? All of you?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have put here Coal India. Yeah. Coal India is a government company. It is the dominant player in the coal sector. Right, number one. If you look at the dividend yield, that is the return you're getting as dividend based on the current market price, is 9.3%. Okay, 9.3%. Compare it with FD. Not only that, you will also get capital appreciation. Let me show you how this stock has reacted. Yeah, I'm going to show you the last. Yeah, the stock, when the share price was 120, at that time the stock declared a dividend of 12 rupees. Okay, currently the stock price is 140. So if I would have bought at 120, I would have got 12 rupees dividend, which is 10% return. Please believe me, in less than a month's time, 10% per month. If you annualize it, it is 120% per annum. Not only that, that 120 on 120, I also got a 20%. I got a 20 rupees upside. Yeah, 20 upon 120 is roughly 1/6. Yeah, so please understand, there are a lot of government companies in India which have huge dividend yields. I always prefer to put a certain part of my portfolio into these high dividend yield companies. Let me show you one more company. NMDC. Again, it's into iron ore. Yeah. You look at the dividend yield, 6.8%. Yeah. NTPC, 5.6%. I'm just giving you random, and these are government companies. Okay, so I'm not even looking at the private sector. I'm just looking at the government sector. The valuations are beaten down. They are quoting at some of the lowest levels we could ever think of. Yeah, and in spite of that, they are giving you dividends, and there is a scope for capital to appreciate also. So I would strongly recommend a portion of your money to be put into dividend yields, dividend yield stock. There's one more for REC. REC giving you Rural Electrification Corporation. So your entire, it is in the financial services for electrification in the rural sector. Yeah, HPCL, BPCL. Look at them. Look at the dividend yields, 12.42. I mean, this is more than double your FD return. Why won't you hold it? I'll give you one more example. HPCL, BPCL disinvestment. The government is talking about disinvesting in BPCL. Yeah, and there are strong rumors in the market that one of the biggest leading players is going to pick up a stake in this company. Yeah, what a beautiful return that stock is giving. Yeah, what beautiful dividend yields are they giving? So we are not even, believe me, we are not even moving into private sector. We're just looking at the government sector companies. Yeah, if you're looking for a Avenue Supermart kind of return, no, that is not what you're going to get here. But this kind of dividend yield in this kind of market is crazy. It's really crazy. I would love to put some part of my money here.
But on contrary, stocks like you said, Avenue Supermarket or maybe India Mart or Affle for that matter, these stocks have given you on the price numbers, they have given you a very high return, IRCTC. Their revenues and maybe a little bit lower on that number, but these are actually on the stock price reflecting they are on a very higher PE. So there is, so the PE will be about 50-60 times the revenue as such. And then you will be thinking, is it value to invest at that moment, or you have to wait and invest, kind of a question.
So let me, you took the example of Avenue Supermart, right? Avenue Supermart is quoting at a PE multiple of 100 plus. Yeah, correct. That means the current price has already inbuilt next 100 years of earnings into the price. Super expensive, super expensive. And now it's going to face the competition from JioMart. So you would have seen after JioMart was launched, immediately the price of Avenue Supermart hit the lower circuit. Yeah, till now it was the undisputed leader in the retail segment. Now, why? Because of the business model that Avenue Supermart has. If you would have seen, they have around 200 stores, and most of their stores are owned by them. They do not have, they've not taken it on lease. Yeah, so they, during these tough periods also, they don't have to pay rentals, and that is the big game changer for them. Yeah, so if you compare them with their nearest competitor, which is Future Retail is struggling today to stay alive. And here you see Avenue Supermart being quoting at a PE of 100 plus. Yeah, but definitely I would never advise anybody to buy the stock at such a high PE. Yeah, remember the entire industry also gets re-rated over a period of time. At one point of time when the IT was the sector to be in, Infosys was at a PE of 200. Currently it is at a PE of 17. 17. So imagine a person who would have bought it at 200 PE. Are you with me? So you have to look at the industry, you have to look at the business model, you have to look at whether the company is a market leader and what makes it so different from others. What makes it so different from others? I'll give you one more example. One more thing which you could look at. Hindustan Unilever, it sells goods and gets on credit and gets the money back within 15 days. That means if I'm Hindustan Unilever and I'm selling to Neil, he will give me back the money in 15 days. But to manufacture these goods, I also source my raw materials on credit. Yeah, and the supply to the supplier, I am paying in 180 days. That is 6 months. So virtually my credit from suppliers is sponsoring 12 times my credit to my customers. Yeah, the advance people actually, there are dealers who pay advance to HUL to get goods from HUL. Are you getting it? So every company has certain unique things. You will get to know from annual report. Believe me, you don't need to have any kind of insider information for you to find out a multi-bagger. everything is published. You have to have faith in that company. Okay, I'll give you one more example. During the Maggie controversy, if you remember, Maggie was withdrawn, right?
Yeah.
The stock of Nestle, which was quoting at around 7,000 rupees, fell to almost 5,000. Okay, we are talking 2017 January, it was 5,000, and 2020 it is at 18,000. How many of us had the guts to have faith in the management of Nestle that they'll come out with Maggie in a new avatar, in a new form, complying with all the requisite standards? Yeah. Did we appreciate the fact that they were number one in a lot of other category products? So this was a good company during bad times. Did we have the guts to buy it? I'll give you one more example. Telecom. Before the COVID-19 issue, we saw one company which was struggling, which was Idea, Vodafone Idea, right? That stock, the face value of the share is 10 rupees. It came to as low as 2.5, 3 rupees. That means below face value. Now, if you would analyze the entire debt and everything of the company, you would realize that they owe 30,000 crore to banks and more than 60,000 crore to the government of India in terms of spectrum charges, which they are going to pay over a period of time. Some part of it is disputed, is under Supreme Court consideration, but all of us decided to write off Vodafone Idea. And from there, in less than 6 months, the stock has given 300% return. Yeah, has touched 6.5 rupees. Yeah. So what happens is you have to analyze the annual report, find the significance. Those figures are there. They are communicating something to you. You have to be open to interpreting it. Yeah. How many of us would have believed in Bharti and Vodafone Idea overcoming the challenge posed by Reliance Jio? And look at today. Today, the two sectors everyone is talking about is telecom and pharma. Yeah. 2 years back, pharma companies, look at Cipla, look at Lupin, look at Dr. Reddy's. They gave horrible returns. And look at the returns they've given in 2 months. Yeah. Which is the industry? Are you able to see what going ahead, which industry is going to do well? Within the industry, which is the companies which are going to do well? Have they any special unique products? Are they catering to something really big? We need to look into all those factors. Remember, your fundamental analysis is a combination of quantitative and qualitative data. Yeah, you have to look at both. Look at the bigger scenario. Everyone thought when L&T fell from 1600 to 800, almost 820, it fell half. It was as if L&T will disappear. L&T, which is the largest infra company in India, has an order book of 2.5 lakh crore. Now, what is an order book? An order book is nothing but where they have unbilled and or unexecuted orders. They've received those orders, but they've not billed it, worth 2.5 lakh crore. When it fell to 820, everyone was like writing off infrastructure. From 820, it has given 15% return in less than 2 months' time. It has gone to 900 plus. These are the ideal times you should be putting your money into such companies which have got beaten down valuations, because there is entire pessimism around the whole of economy. Everything seems to be not working. Now, when you look at L&T is a conglomerate. Basically, it's a holding company. It has L&T Finance, it has tech, it has Infotech, Mindtree. It is the best in infrastructure, and you're getting at 820. People were not ready to buy. TCS, in this entire scenario, it is amongst the top 10 IT companies in the world. It is number one in India. Yeah, from 2100 fell to almost 1680. Yeah, if we would have bought at 1680, in less than 2 months' time, it touched 2000 again. So always keep your set of good companies, market leaders, good management, low debt companies having unique products. Keep your list ready. You don't have to remain invested all the time. Keep your cash bucket ready. Whenever these companies go through such a beaten down time, that is the time you should be buying.
And we have a question from Dattaram. Can I ask him to unmute? Dattaram, can you unmute and ask your question?
I just want to know, like a face value, how to judge the face value. Like in P, in the case of P, if we bought the stock in the say P value is 13, 14, 15, and I'm selling it in the say like P at 20, 25, or 30. So for like that only, is there any criteria for face value to judge? I just want to
Okay.
know face value.
So let me tell you what is face value. Face value is nothing that when a company is formed for the first time, it has to file with the registrar of companies one document which is like the constitution of the company. It is called Memorandum of Association. And in the Memorandum of Association, it will tell you how many shares the company plans to issue and what will be the price of each share currently, today, when the business has not even started. So most of the companies try to keep a face value of either 1, 2, 5, or 10. Okay, so if I keep a face value of 10, it means whenever I'm issuing shares, I'm going to issue shares generally above 10 rupees. Why I will issue above 10 rupees? Because over a period of time, I would have generated a lot of profits which have accumulated and lying in my balance sheet. Anybody who buys the share after a couple of years will be entitled to part of those profits. So shouldn't he pay more for those profits? He should. So generally face value has no relevance there except for the fact that it is the price at which a share is the price that is given to the share when the company is formed. Remember, the current price will be far, far different from the face value. Very different from face value. So you can judge using a low PE, high PE, but don't apply that to the face value. It's just a number. So earlier companies used to keep face value of 100. Over a period of time, companies have started keeping low face value. For example, if you look at TCS share, the face value of the company is 1. It doesn't make any difference. You are looking at the stock current price. So face value is just a number which does not require your attention while doing fundamental analysis.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so there's a question here. Can you please suggest the good company with strong fundamentals to invest now? That means you want suggestions on companies to invest. Guys, it will be highly inappropriate for me to give you just some good suggestions based without knowing your risk profile. Yeah, without knowing what is your risk profile, it would be highly inappropriate for me to suggest what kind of risk you can take. But definitely going ahead, one sector which I feel is going to do very well is pharma chemicals. Yeah, there is going to be a lot more focus world over on spending on healthcare. India's spend on healthcare is a very low 2%. 2% of our GDP. Yeah, so that is going to improve because all of us would have realized. I think even BMC, which is the richest municipality in Asia, it has some fixed deposits apparently worth thousands of crores. Even that municipality today is struggling to provide beds to COVID-19 patients. We keep on hearing news about how patients are not getting beds, right? So I think there's going to be huge spend on healthcare, not only from the government sector, but also individually, all of us are going to become more conscious about our health because we know today it is the survival of the fittest. Yeah. So going ahead, I see one industry which should do very well should be pharma chemicals. Consider also the fact that India supplies medicines to almost all the parts of the world. So we are very big exporters of medicines. Yeah. So you should look, I feel you should look into that sector and look at companies in that sector.
And there's somebody who's raised her hand. But I can't read their name.
Yeah, the name is a little different. Yeah, you could
unmute and ask your question.
Put in your question.
Person DAZ.
Neil, can you ping him privately?
I did ping him.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am, I think by the time that person manages to unmute, I have, ma'am, when you create a portfolio, and a lot of us create a portfolio, but as you said, I mean, I feel that the stock market and the sector goes through a churn over the period of time. And some of them get beaten down, some of them get ruled out. So few years ago, we would have felt Island FS or a Yes Bank is a need to have a stock in your portfolio. And then so some reality happens, or maybe some other companies earlier than that we have seen. So at what point should you, what should be your portfolio horizon is like a question one, and how many times should you review your portfolio to look at what's happening with the management, and should I exit the stock? I think now things are not okay with this company. Maybe it's time to book profit here, or maybe it's run up too much that we can get it at a lower value, like that.
Yeah. So earlier we all of us used to follow the Buffett way of investing, which is like, invest and forget it. Yeah, we've had investors who invested, one of our investors who invested 500 rupees into Bajaj Auto. Yeah. And that 500 rupees grew on to some 1.5-2 crore rupees over a period of time. Yeah. So there are people who hold on to their portfolio for years, not years, decades together. Yeah. But I have a feeling that today, with the fast way in which world is changing, industries will keep, there will be new industries always, which will be the flavor of the season. Yeah. Telecom, which was not the flavor, is the flavor now. Yeah, banking, NBFC, Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, which hit such highs, have lost 60% of their value. So they are not the flavor of the season anymore. So if anybody would not have booked profit in Bajaj Finance at 5,000, is seeing that stock at 1,900 today, and he feels really sad about it. So I have a feeling that your investment horizon definitely should not be something like a day, 3 months, 6 months, a year. Should be at least 4-5 years. You should review your portfolio at least once every quarter. But in case there is some investment you have made into a company and there is some major news about that company that has come in, yeah, you should immediately review your portfolio. And I feel periodically you should book your profits. You should book your profits, because the way markets are changing, the way investors are changing, the way outlooks are changing, it might happen that you saw a stock making very good highs, did not book profits, and now that stock has touched you. Yeah. Avanti Feeds, look at HEG, Graphite India, lot of stocks which were the flavor of the season just went one way up. You didn't book your profits there, and now you see them at such low prices. And you feel sad because you had identified a right stock, you had invested it into it. Yeah. So generally, I recommend that once you have achieved a decent return, yeah, you should at least partly book your profits. Partly book your profits. Otherwise, everything remains unrealized gains in your portfolio. So at one point of time, your portfolio will be X amount. Today, that portfolio could be just 0.5X. Just because you did not happen to book profits at a high, at the peak. Also, please remember, going ahead, 1 year is going to be very tough. So conserve cash. Conserve cash, very, very important. Because you're going to get a lot of opportunities to invest. You make a good return, sell it at higher levels. Again, you will get opportunities to buy at lower levels. This market is more of a market where, traders market, I should call it, where you make decent returns, sell it off, again, you will get an opportunity to buy it at lower prices. There's one more question which has come in. In case we are studying on technical analysis and fundamental analysis, on which basis we can give more importance? Also, I want to ask, I see some of the stock move upwards even if Nifty is going down. Why this happens? Okay, let me look at the first part of it. If you're going to do in derivatives, if you're going to invest into derivatives, then not invest, trade in derivatives. Technical analysis is what you should be looking at. There's no need of having a fundamental analysis there because it is very short term. But if you're going to do invest for a longer period of time, you should use fundamental analysis to pick up the right company to invest in, and you should use technical analysis to find out the right price to enter. I'll give you an example for this. Reliance Industries started investing into telecom business in 2010. For 6 years, they kept on investing. I think they invested more than 60,000 crores into the telecom business. Yeah. And remember, they're keeping on investing money without getting any return. So what happened? The stock moved in a very narrow price range for 6 years. People started saying it's a Sensex heavyweight. Sensex has given such beautiful returns, but this company, this particular stock has not given any kind of return. If you would have done a technical analysis, you would have understood that that was not the right price to enter Reliance. Yeah, you should have waited for an upward move before entering into Reliance. But since 2016, that stock has given fabulous returns. So what would have happened is if you would have used just fundamental analysis, you would have picked up the right stock in 2010 Reliance. Remain invested for 3-4 years because we say it is long term, and 4 years you don't get any returns. You see other stocks going up and you feel very frustrated. You sell off in 2015 and 2016 onwards when Jio was launched and the stock starts giving you returns. Yeah, so you should use a combination of them. Also, why certain sectors do very well, why certain companies go up in spite of Nifty coming down. Now, what has happened, let me give you an example. Recent COVID-19, what has happened is all of us were asked to stock up our grocery. All of us were at home. So what did all of us do? We started using a lot more, started buying hand sanitizers, hand washes, grocery items, FMCG products, basically. Yeah. So what happened? The sales of all these FMCG companies just became much higher than what they would have been otherwise. So what happened? If I store generally 1 kg of dal, I started storing 3 kgs of dal, not knowing when is it going to open. So for the company, that 3 kg of sale has happened instantaneously instead of spread over 3 months. So what happened? The sales increased, the profit margins were high, so the stock went up. So in spite of Nifty coming down, you saw you saw Hindustan Unilever giving a fabulous return. You saw Nestle giving a fabulous return. You saw Reliance giving a fabulous return because of people using more and more data. All of us are consuming more and more data. Yeah. Who's the direct beneficiary? They have around 38 crore customers, I think. So that is roughly 1/3 of India. Yeah. So the entire telecom is 1/3 with each of these companies, right? With Reliance having #1 position. Now what happens? All of us are consuming little more data. It adds up to the revenue of Reliance. So Reliance goes up in spite of the fact that Nifty is coming down. So please have a look at the industry, why it is doing well for you to invest. Okay, Coal India investment of 1 lakh on 1st January 2011. Total dividend received 52,500. Current value 44,900. Net no returns. What to do with such dividend yield stocks where the price is also falling equally? Remember what to do with these stocks. Every time when you see a 10% move in the stock, book your profits. These are government stocks. They are not going to command the kind of PE which private sector has. So when at 120 you buy Coal India, take a 10% dividend return, take a 15% return on the stock price, sell it. Once it comes down again, you buy, rotate your money there. You don't invest into Coal India thinking it is going to become the next IRCTC or Avenue Supermart. It's the market leader. It's #1. It's a government company. It's a high dividend yield paying company, but a company with a low PE. It's not going to command a very high PE. So for us to keep on thinking that Coal India we are going to hold for long term, I invest at 140, 150, 200 rupees, and it will become 2000 rupees in 5 years time. That's not going to happen. So the objective with which you're investing into Coal India is wrong. How to find good companies, as there are thousands of publicly listed companies in the Indian stock market, is investing in small caps more profitable than large caps. Okay, so to find
Just
good
to
companies.
interject one moment, I think the same person had another question. Is he's the nuance in the stock market?
Okay.
He's planning to invest now, so I think these are his follow-up questions.
Okay, one sec. What is the future for Tata Teleservices stock to invest in? I don't have a view because I have not put researched into that particular company. Reliance is having huge debt even though stock price is increasing. What is your observation? Future seems unpredictable and there is no earnings. Demand is less. Do you think this is the right time or one should wait till Q1, Q2? There are thoughts that Nifty may go below 8,000. What is your thought on this? So let me come to the first question. Reliance has huge debt, and if you would have seen, it has raised more than $15 billion through sale of stake. Yeah, and it is going to reduce the debt, and that is why the kind of returns Reliance is giving. Future definitely is unpredictable for everything. Yeah, they are planning to become net debt free. Remember, not totally debt free. Net debt free. There's a difference between net debt free and totally debt free. Do you think this is the right time or one should wait till Q1, Q2? I cannot say that because we are facing very uncertain times. This is the first wave of infection that has come in. Once the lockdown opens, will we have experienced second wave of infections? Nobody knows. Some of the countries like Singapore, Germany, Sweden, they faced a second wave of infection. So can Nifty touch 8,000? Can it go below 8,000? Could go below 8,000. A lot of technical analysts are saying that. Yeah. So what should I do? Should I go fully invested? No. Cash is king. Wherever you find a stock totally beaten down, that is the time you invest. Get a 10-20% return, sell it off. Again, stand with cash ready to buy when it falls down. This is a trader's market. You are going to get a lot of opportunities to buy good companies at lower levels and sell at higher levels. How to find, is that the company?
This Madhusudan is a new investor. He wants to invest for the first time in the market, and so he wants to understand that is this a good time, and then this is the follow-up question: how to find good companies in thousands of stocks.
Is it a good time to invest into stock market with this kind of valuations? Little, small investments. Yeah, identify good companies, put small amounts. If it falls down, be ready to invest further into that company. Have conviction in your company, and every fall keep on investing, averaging your cost down, and when it goes up, keep on booking profits little by little. And how to find good companies, as there are thousands of publicly listed companies in the Indian stock market. So there are 5,000 plus listed companies on Bombay Stock Exchange. You should look at only market leaders. Currently, the scenario is such that we don't even know which of these small companies are going to be able to survive the entire downturn in the economy. A lot of people are talking about recession. Indian economy is going to have a recession. Only the real good companies with good cash balance, low debt, market leaders, good corporate governance. Look at some of these good profit margins. Look at some of these criteria and filter your companies. Yeah, so you will find very few companies in each industry which you can track, and then look at buying them whenever there is falling price. Is investing in small caps more profitable than large caps? If you can identify the right small cap, yes. Because at one point of time, all these large caps were also small caps. Yeah, so you should look at that. Alok Industries should invest now. I have no views on that. What are your views on primary and secondary brokerage houses? SBI Smart, HDFC Securities, Edelweiss, Zerodha, after the Kavi investment scam, how do you find a trustworthy broker? Guys, I am not the right person to speak on this because We ourselves are stockbrokers. So it will be highly inappropriate for me to comment on our competitors. Yeah.
I
I'm
think,
so
ma'am, they're
sorry, I will
talking
not be
about the pledging of share issue, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, pledging of shares. So you should be careful about giving your power of attorney. You should be careful about checking uh, your your DMAT statements. See that your shares have come into your account. See, do you own your flat papers and do you just give it to somebody for safekeeping, or you keep it with yourself? If you're giving it to somebody for safekeeping, don't you keep a periodic check to see that the documents are safe? As an investor, when you take care, if you buy it physical gold, don't you keep it in locker in a safe position? You do keep that, right? As an owner, you have to take care of that. So I'm really sorry I won't be able to answer that question.
Mehul has a
How do we
question. Can we ask him to unmute and ask his question?
Yeah.
Mehul, please unmute and ask him.
Yeah. Thanks, Neil. Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Mehul.
Ma'am, there's a few questions from my end. So the
Hmm.
first thing is when you actually mentioned about the dividend yield, reading through the management discussion and analysis and understanding the balance sheet and statements, annual report basically of a company. So how do we exactly make out, because there is always a change in price, and the change in price is also one variable that goes for the dividend yield calculation.
Correct.
So there will be a possibility of the dividend yield also to keep it fluctuating.
Absolutely. So why you're getting such a high yield on Coal India or REC is because the prices are beaten down. And remember, the reason why I am just focusing on government companies for high dividend yield is government is always in need of dividend income. So these companies are generally very generous with their dividend declaration. So if you look at the dividend yield, the lower the market price, higher will be your dividend yield. And currently, most of them are quoting at their 52-week low, not even 52-week low. A lot of them are quoting at multi-decade low. Yeah. So I feel right time to put some part of our money there. I could go wrong. Only time will say whether I'm right or wrong. But I definitely feel we should be putting money there.
So what is the minimum? Yeah.
Sorry, Mehul, go ahead.
So what is the minimum dividend yield that basically a layman should look into? So is it like we compare straight away with the FD rate and savings account rate?
Yeah, anything above FD rate, anything above FD rate for me is good.
Correct.
See, my FD is, sorry, I don't own any FDs. I don't invest a single paisa into FDs. So in one of my sessions, which was attended by a doctor, he was very surprised. He told me this is the first time I'm coming across a lady who's saying that she doesn't own a FD. Yeah, because I strongly believe FD is the easiest way to destroy wealth. Yeah, so I would put anything above FD rate, not savings bank rate, but anything. Savings bank rate is like too low, 2.75 or some 2.5 times. Yeah, but a FD rate, anything above FD rate is good.
Correct.
I'm a follow-up to Mehul's question. If you have to create a portfolio, you said you look at some stocks in dividend yield. So if you have 100 rupee, how will we percentage-wise divide? How much we'll allot to a dividend yield stock, something to the market leader, something which will be a very like a D-Mart or maybe an India Mart or something, which are in a very unique space. IRCTC, they are all in a very unique space, especially IRCTC, India Mart, I feel are all unique space. So they are commanding a very high multiple as of now. But how do you bifurcate and give your, say, I give 20% to a dividend yield stock, I give 30% to a Nifty 50 stocks, and I give another 30% to a mid cap and 10% to small cap. So what will be the ideal bifurcation you will recommend?
So it depends on your age and your risk taking capability. If you're young, you're in your 20s, early 30s, you have a huge 20, 30 years of working going ahead, you can take a much higher risk. Then your allocation to equity should be higher. Generally, for every 100 rupees that you're ready to invest, 10% I always recommend should be invested into gold. Yeah. And your investment into equity, the formula you should use is 100 minus your age. So if you're 30-year-old, that means 70% of your savings should go into equity. Yeah. Now, within equity, how much of it should go to dividend yield, how much of it should go to large cap, how much of it should go to small cap, will purely depend upon your risk-taking ability. If you are ready to take a higher risk, you're going to allot a lot more to small cap. But I would not recommend that in next 1 year, because we are going through very uncertain times. We don't know which of these small caps will blow up. Yeah, we could end up losing our entire capital. So I would not recommend a very huge exposure to small caps, even for a young guy today. Yeah, so your mantra should be 100 minus your age should be your allocation to equity. And irrespective of how lucrative a sector is, please do not commit 100% of your funds to that particular sector only. I might give you a hot tip. ABC is that right company. Put your money. It's going to be a doubler in 6 months' time. You say 200% return in 6 months. That means 400% per annum. Okay, let me put my entire savings into this. Never do that. That is against the fundamental principle of asset allocation. Yeah, please do, irrespective of how lucrative a sector is, please keep some part of your money into gold, some into equity, some into fixed income securities.
And what is your view on debt? Mutual fund or equities? What will you pick?
See, if you don't understand equity, if you are not capable of tracking company news, if you do not have faith in research reports of your broker, then mutual funds are better. But if you are capable of reading on equity, of doing a little bit of fundamental analysis, using a lot more of common sense, investing is a lot more of common sense. If you are capable of doing that, giving time to that, then of course direct investing into equity is the best.
But what will be the ideal size of a portfolio? 10 stocks, 20 stocks?
20? I think not beyond 20.
Because there will be a limitation of how much you can track, and then you will get into that.
Yeah. Plus, if you're investing into 20 stocks, every time you have faith in those 20 stocks. So every time you have some saving, you're going to put into those stocks. Whereas if you diversify and make it into a 50 stock portfolio, then every time you have a saving, you will buy a little bit of each of these companies.
There's a question from Sridhar. We can ask him to unmute and ask his question. Sridhar, if you can ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming in and giving an enlightening session. And thanks, Neil, for taking this initiative. Ma'am, as you said, this is a trader's market. So for people who cannot control their greed and they go on leveraging, so what is your guru mantra based on your experience?
Zero leveraging. Zero leveraging.
How can we control that, ma'am?
There's no way. Don't take overdraft. Don't take overdraft. Only your savings. The moment your saving balance becomes zero, stop.
Okay.
Irrespective of what anyone tells you as the opportunity of a lifetime. Never. A first rule of investing is never ever borrow and invest. Invest only your own money. The day you violate that is the time when we've seen people falling into debt traps, people losing their houses, people losing their personal assets to pay off their losses in stock market. And that is so sad, so sad. So you don't have to be Rakesh Jhunjhunwala on day one. Remember, it took him decades to become where he is today.
So maybe we need to extend our goals and the timelines to reach them.
Absolutely. Please do not look in terms of return. Oh, 3 months, 6 months. Oh, so one of my friend got this kind of return. Yeah, no. Please avoid derivatives. Have small amount, invest small amount, but invest it into cash market. Derivatives is highly, I would say, not recommended for any investor. Because you tend to keep on paying for the MTM margin. You never know when to cut off your losses.
Okay, noted. Thanks. Thanks, ma'am. Thanks, ma'am.
Okay, we look at the last question. Shall we look at the last question, Neil, now?
The value on double market. So
There
actually, there
is.
are three questions which were there. One is what
Okay,
is
so
your
let's just finish. Yeah. So when you're also, please remember, when you're looking at investing, don't keep unrealistic expectations. Oh, I want my money to double every year. No, you're having a CA. If when interest rates are so low in India at 5%, if you're getting even a 12% return in stock market, you should be happy. Don't look at 50-80% return. I'll give you a very simple statistic. Warren Buffett, who is one of the legendary investors and richest person in the world, one of the richest, he started investing at the age of 11, and 90% of his current wealth has come to him after he turned 50. That means he kept patience for 39 years. Yeah, and earned just 10% of his wealth. And his wealth came in the later stages of his life. Yeah, so we look at 1 year, 6 months. For us, 5 years is like a lifetime. It is not a lifetime. Whole life is there ahead for us. So let us look at the last three questions. What is your view on investing in market leaders in real estate sector? Do you see real estate industry going into red zone? Really, I don't see anywhere a dawn very soon in the real estate industry. So I would keep myself away from real estate.
how book value?
How book value is important to refer while selecting stock? For banks, you should look at a formula which is price to book value. And for other sectors, you should look at PE. So price to earning. So for banks, please refer to price to book value. So the most expensive one seems to be Kotak Bank there, followed by HDFC Bank and so on. And the least expensive ones are the government-owned banks, you know, SBI, Bank of Baroda and so on, Canara Bank and so on. And is book value, if book value is double market rate and PE at very low compared to industry PE, is it worth investing? So do not mix your PE and price to book value together. When you're wanting to invest into banking sector, please look at price to book value. There, do not refer to PE. And for other sectors, look at PE, do not refer to price to book value.
And one question is, when should you book your profits in the current market scenario?
As I told you, a 10% return and I'll be very happy. I will sell off because the markets are so uncertain. I keep on seeing possibilities of Nifty coming down. So what do I do? Book my profits, 10% profit, and I'm extremely happy. I'll be a seller at 10% gains and again become a buyer when the stock falls down.
I do this normally sometimes with all senior people who come on the show. I normally ask them 5 quick questions, and you only have to give me it's simple 5 quick questions. So I mean, we'll end to a show because we have actually eaten into your time. We have exceeded more than an hour right now. So I want to also let you go because you're very, very busy. I know you have another session committed already. So 5 questions. What I usually ask is what unique thing you did in this lockdown which your family will say this is something very unique, or your daughter will say that this is something new I never saw my mother doing.
So I love fitness. So earlier there used to be always an excuse of, you know, just doing a little bit of yoga or a little bit of walk, you know, half an hour, and then, okay, I don't have time because I have my sessions lined up and so on and so forth. But during this lockdown period, I decided to dedicate every day at least 1.5 hours to my fitness. And it has brought about a big change in my fitness levels. So I'm very happy with that, and my family is very happy with that.
As a mentor, what will one advice you'll give to your mentee, saying this is what I'll advise you?
Patience and conviction in yourself. Conviction in your decision-making process.
Ma'am, a book you will recommend all the participants that they should read this is like recommended?
Definitely Intelligent Investor. It's the Bible.
one of the brands that you felt surprised you during this whole last 68 days? You thought this brand completely did something out of box.
Frank. Did I hear rightly? Prank is what you said?
Brand, BRAND.
Okay, sorry. Could you repeat your question?
One brand that surprised you during this lockdown.
Brand or company maybe.
Brand or company.
Idea. I was a very unhappy customer of Idea. I used to keep on complaining about call drops, about my phone not being accessible. A lot of people would say they're trying to access my number, not able to do that. But that that company has been providing excellent services. So in terms of consumerism, there's hardly anything being consumed other than grocery. So services is what I would say, and I'm really happy with both. In fact, I have a Wi-Fi connection of Jio, and personally on my mobile I have Idea, and both have supported me fabulously during this period, so that I have not suffered anything professionally. I've been able to go online and do it, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the OTT platform, especially Netflix.
And what have been you watching on Netflix? Sorry, I'm just curiously throwing this. What's your favorite sitcom?
So a lot of movies which my daughter always says, so I'm not a person who loves to sit in front of TV and watch, but there were a lot of movies that I saw, so English movies I had not caught up for a long time, so I have watched some of them. I'll share them with you, the names, just give me a second. I'm a very forgetful person in terms of Blended, Parent Trap, Life as We Know It, Mother's Day, The Proposal, some of the movies which my daughters recommended. I saw that, some shows. I saw Money Heist that was recommended by a lot of my students. So yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed Netflix also.
Ma'am, what would you choose, knowledge or money, and why?
Knowledge. If I have the knowledge, making money will be easy. If I have money but no knowledge, I'll not be able to sustain that money.
That's actually a very interesting way of looking at it. Ma'am, during this whole lockdown, how did you manage to keep the morale high of the students and the employees that work around you? What did one action you did to keep their morale up and high?
So what generally I tend to do, especially with my students, is we tend to discuss news. So every session, the first 10 minutes are devoted to discussing the news of the previous week or the previous day, depending on whenever I had my earlier session. And generally, I find that so generally the news used to be all about so many COVID patients, etc., etc. So we made it a point not to read out anything about COVID, but to discuss about economy. So a lot of how India was getting orders, how companies were planning to move to India, those small positive things, and how you are healthy in spite of the fact there are a lot of COVID patients around you. So why are you not infected? Maybe you're taking care of health, maybe you're blessed, counting your blessings, and looking at more at the positive aspects of what are happening in the economy. Though the number of news on positive aspects was very less, but I made it a point that you're going to read only economy business news. So everyone was giving something which was good, positive. So that I think helped us a lot.
And last question, I'm normally very curious about the routine followed by successful people. Very, very curious about it. What's
I'm
the
not
routine?
successful. I'm not successful, Neil.
That is being modest. But what's the routine? I'm very, very curious about it on this.
So normally I have 2 staff at home who generally are able to help me out when I go out for my training. But because of this lockdown period, we are a family of 4. My husband, because we are into stock market essential services, so generally he goes to office. So me and my daughters are at home. So the day starts with me making lunch, packing it off so that he goes off to office, then devoting my 1.5 hours to my exercise regime. And I follow intermittent fasting. That means I have just 2 meals a day. So I have my lunch by around 10:30, and my dinner at around 5:30. So then I have my lunch, and with that I read through all the e-papers that we have been getting. So because that's very important for me, reading, I can survive without food but not without reading. So spend good 1.5 2 hours on reading everything, and then my sessions, then time for the evening dinner with, of course, great help from both my daughters. And the good part is they've learned cooking during this time, when they see that I have a lot of sessions piled up, so they experiment in the kitchen. So I've got 2 additional cooks in the family now. And weekends, my husband is a big supporter. So whatever time he gets, he's a very big supporter to me. He ensures that my weekends are free in terms of household work. So that I devote to something what I like to do, which is watching shows, reading more, talking, doing Zoom calls, playing online with family, and your day goes away and your week goes away.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am,
Neel,
any
I have
fi-
just one last question to ask us. Ma'am,
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
in addition to the list of the movies that you just shared recently, any
Huh?
one movie that is based on finance, market, economy that is like a must watch for all of us that you would recommend? So like few years before I actually watched this movie, The Inside Job, the
Yeah,
crisis that happened in 2008, where the
correct,
Raghuram Rajan is also like a documentary movie, and it's like explains how the entire situation turns out.
correct.
Any one
I
movie
was
that you
about to tell you that movie only. Ek or hai shayad, I think, Wall Street. I think the name of the movie is Wall Street. Wall Street. What is the name of the movie?
One was Wolf of Wall Street, and then there
Wolf
is
of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street. And there was one more movie. I forgot the name. I have a list of those movies, Mehul. Maybe I could WhatsApp to you. I have it
sure,
somewhere on my phone. Yeah,
sure, because at least we can utilize our lockdown time at least going through movies.
yeah, yeah,
One
yeah.
of the greatest movies that I follow as a trader is The Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness. Okay, I have
Happiness.
not seen the movie.
Will Smith wala.
An amazing motivational movie.
Will Smith.
Pursuit of
Will
Happiness.
Smith.
To-do list. So
Good.
this should happen in
But
1 week's time. I'm going to watch it.
Even I also will share you my list of movies, ma'am, to you.
Oh
so this
yeah,
is not about markets, ma'am, but this is he ends up becoming a Nasdaq stockbroker. He goes through a very difficult time, but he has an aim that he wants to earn, and he becomes a broker. That's the end of the movie.
okay,
Actually
okay.
started his life from a scratch, but is actually has been very focused to what he wants to become.
Lovely, lovely.
All right, ma'am. Any final words you have?
It was very interesting interacting. I love the questions that have come away. Um, remember one thing, uh, investing into stock market, it has to come as a passion for you. The money will always follow, don't worry. But if you do it passionately, follow your work passionately, then money is going to come. This market is going to give you returns, let me tell you. But what you need to do is really follow this market with passion. And it is my very strong faith that you can multiply your money through stock markets. You can multiply your money through stock markets. Yeah, which is what personally I have been doing, which is investing only into 2 asset classes, which one is gold and second is stock market. Yeah, and both give fabulous returns. You have to just have the power, continuously reading. Very important, keeping yourself updated about what's happening in economy, what is the current trend. Remember, the more knowledge you gather, you will be able to apply it in different circumstances. So keep on reading, keep on applying your common sense towards investing, and you should be a learner right throughout your life. Yeah, Warren Buffett. Let me end this with one statement made by Warren Buffett recently. He said it was my mistake. At the age of 86, 87, one of the legendary investors, one of the person to whom the whole world looks up to. It is so difficult, but publicly he acknowledged that their investing into airline business was a mistake. He has committed. It was very easy for him. He could have just put it on any person in the company and nobody would have said anything. But the humility and the fact to admit that, okay, I have made a mistake, I'm going to rectify that. He sold off the entire stake in 4 airlines that he had. Yeah, it is amazing. So always have the humility. This market will teach you a lot of stuff. At every age, at every stage, you're going to learn from this market. Just keep your eyes and ears open. Be receptive to what is coming in. And very, very happy investing and lifelong learning. That is what I would say.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think those were interesting. I was remembering the Warren Buffett quote, which said, the stock market is a device of transferring money from the impatient to the patient. And I think your words quite resounded at that part of it also.
Thank you so much, Neil.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much, Mehul. Yeah.
Thank you so
It
much,
was a
ma'am,
pleasure to be with you guys. Yeah.
for joining us this Sunday afternoon, sharing your story, your ideas, your advice to us. It's a very rare opportunity to get up close with such a humble person that you are. We wish you the best. Sorry, we have somebody wants to ask a question.
Yes.
Just about the gold. Now the gold is now at 45,000. Somebody, they predict it will go up to 75. What is your opinion to invest as of now?
No. Not when gold has already had such a big run. You don't want to invest now. Gold always moves in kind of step patterns. Moves up, remains steady for quite a few years. Yeah. Then goes up, spike, and again remains steady for quite a few years. So I would wait to invest into gold. Not at this high level.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We take your leave and we hope to see you soon again for such exciting conversation again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
I take leave of everyone to end this webinar.